Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you all had a great April break. You got outside a little bit, able to relax a little bit, and are ready to go for the rest of the year. So today we're actually going to start chapter 8. Okay, this is actually going to take us a while. It might end up actually taking us to the end of the year, but chapter 8 is all on independent living. I thought this would be a pretty cool chapter for you guys to focus on. Hopefully, if we get through this pretty quickly, I would like to go over some income tax stuff at the end of the year. But for right now, let's focus here on independent living. And we're going to do section 8.1, which is on finding a place to live. And this section will take us a few days. We're going to do part 1 of it today, part 2 Wednesday, and kind of seeing how we do. We might even spill it into next week. Okay, but one thing we're going to focus on today is calculating the affordability of a monthly rent. All right. So keywords here that we'll go throughout this section. A big thing I want you guys to start thinking about is what are the advantages and disadvantages between renting and buying. Okay, because there are advantages and disadvantages for each. Okay, and that's going to be a big focus for us throughout this chapter. Today we're going to talk more about renting, but in section 8.3 and 8.4, we'll talk more about owning an apartment. So that's what your discussion board post is for today. Is I want you guys to think about that and maybe even research into that. What are some advantages of renting? What are some advantages of buying? And then what are the disadvantages of each? Okay, so when we talk about renting, we got to figure out, what are we looking for when we want to rent a place to live, and how much is an acceptable amount to spend? Because here's the problem: if you go into it and you're looking at some postings for apartments, and you don't have a good idea of what you can afford, you're going to end up overspending. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys two guidelines. First, our book suggests that we stick to 25 to 30% of our monthly income, and that's before tax. So they recommend 25 to 30% of our gross income. Okay, and they really stick to narrow it down to 1%. They go with 28%, and that's what we'll go with when we do the problems out. Is we'll go estimating, all right, what would 28% of our income be when it comes to judging if we can afford something. That's a little bit high for me. I don't usually want to spend quite that much because, again, the more money you spend towards your rent, the less you have for other stuff, the less you have to spend on food, the less you have to spend on hanging out with your friends, the less you can save, the less you can pay towards, credit card bills, student loan debt, whatever that might be. Okay, so I usually stick to 25% of my after tax income, but again, you got to do with what you're comfortable with and what you can afford. Okay, so something guys want to point out is here are some postings. I picked out 7 in the Hartford area just to quickly look at kind of what these are talking about. Again, you'll see they all have different prices, but it's really based on a bunch of different things, right? Location is a big thing when it comes to what the rent might be. The amenities that place has would be another really important thing to look at. And then what else is included in that rent? So some things I want to highlight for you guys is a big thing I always look for is, does that apartment include laundry? Is there a washer and dryer available for me to use anytime I want? And what's funny is most of these do not. You see how this says washer or W/D HKUP? So that stands for washer dryer hookup, which means the plumbing, the electrical, the dryer vent is there, but there's no physical washer and dryer already in the apartment, which means you can bring them in. If you want to buy a washer and dryer, you can install them yourself, but it doesn't currently have a washer and dryer. I try to avoid that. I'm trying to find ones that already have a washer and dryer there. Okay. Some people can also negotiate that. You might say, hey, if you were to install a washer and dryer for me, then I would consider renting there. But again, that's something you would have to work on. Okay, some other cool things to look at is some of them might even include some of your utilities. So which one was it? I don't remember which one it was now, guys. Can I receive renovated all appliances, carpet, washer dryer? No. Anyway, Well, this one here, the Manchester one, doesn't specifies it doesn't include utilities. Which one was the heat, hot water? Well, this is embarrassing, huh? Duplex, laundry. I don't know. I don't see it now. One of them here says heat, hot water included, but that's something you would also want that would matter. Think about that for that rent price. You're already paying for the heat, meaning your heat bill isn't going to change throughout the wintertime. So that'd be an advantage to look at. Okay, so what I want to show you guys too, just really quickly, is a chart that looks at what percentage of income was normally spent on rent as the years went on, right? So in the 50s, 17.9%, 19.7%. You can see it gradually went up throughout those years. Okay, it's pretty interesting. All right, so let's look at a couple questions here and think about how much we can afford in rent. Okay, so Alex here makes $61,992 per year and pays about 25% of his gross monthly income in federal and state taxes. So he wants to find an apartment to rent. So we want to estimate how much can he afford to pay for rent for each month. Then determine how much money he will have after taxes and rent are paid. Okay, so again, we're going to stick with those guidelines of sticking between 25 and 30% of his income. But really, to pick one percentage, we're going to go with 28%. Okay, so first of all, we got to figure out how much is his monthly income. So it says he makes $61,992 per year. So what would that come out to be per month? So think about that. We're going to take that number and divide it by 12. So that's our first goal. So 61,992. We're going to divide that by 12 to find his monthly income. And he ends up making 5,000. Oh, geez. $166 per month. Okay. So that's the number we're going to go based off of. So first of all, we know that 25% of that is going to go to his taxes. So we want to figure out what is 25% of $5,166. Well, let's take that number and multiply it by 0.25. Again, we're always going to convert that percentage into a decimal. So we get his taxes. He is spending $1,291.50 goes towards taxes each month. Okay, and then for rent, again, we're sticking between 25 and 30%. But let's go with figure out what 28% of that would be. So let's take again his 51, his monthly income, and figure out what is 28% of that. And we end up getting $1,446.48. Okay, so the blue number here represents what he pays in taxes, and the green number is a good guideline of what he should be able to afford in rent, and that's the number we don't want to go over. So again, that gives us a good baseline when he's looking at postings, when he's on Zillow or Apartments.com. That's the number he doesn't want to go over in this case. Okay, so now the question asked: determine how much money he will have after taxes and rent are paid. Well, we're going to take the monthly income. Let's take that 5166, and we're going to subtract from it the numbers he has to pay in taxes and in rent. So we're going to subtract away his tax amount and subtract away what he can afford in rent. Okay, and after that, subtract those two numbers, we get 24, 28, 02. That's a 4. Okay, So we didn't think about that. Is that enough? Can we make do with that money each month? Do we have enough if he has debt? Can Alex pay his bills? Can he pay his car payment? Can he do this with that? Can he save enough for the future with that amount? If not, he would want to probably consider, bringing down this amount. Let's not pay as much towards rent. Okay. All right. So our next question, let's talk here about Bethany. So here's what I want you guys to do. Pause this for a second. Pause this video. I want you to try this one on your own for right now. Okay, I'll get myself out of the way here. It's really just a word problem. Once you finish it, unpause this video, and then we'll go over it together. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Let's go over this really quickly. So Bethany's monthly gross income is $3,840. All right, that's her monthly income. So we have that already. She pays 24% of her monthly gross earnings in federal and state taxes and 15% for her student loan. Bethany uses 15% of her monthly gross income to pay toward her credit card balance. She wants to rent an apartment that will cost $1,800 per month. Will she be able to make the payments without changing the amounts she pays towards her student loans and credit card balance? All right, basically the question is this too expensive, this $1,800 per month? So there's really two ways we can kind of look at this. First, we can calculate how much she's paying towards taxes in her student loan and her credit card balance, and see, after we subtract those amounts, is there enough money to cover this $1,800? Also, what we can do is figure out what percent is this $1,800 in comparison to her monthly income. Again, we want it to be less than 25 to 30%, so we would check that as well. Okay, but let's go ahead and figure out what those amounts would be. Okay, so again, her monthly income is $3,840. Okay, so let's start with her tax. And how much was her taxes? Taxes are 24%. Okay, so her taxes is 24%. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take her monthly income. Let's take this 3,840 and multiply it by 0.24. And that amount ends up being $921.60. Okay, let's look at her student loan and credit card. So what's cool is since they're both 15%, guys, I'm just going to calculate that once and know it's the same amount each time. Okay, so her student loan and taxes not taxes, I'm sorry, and credit card bill. Wrote that wrong. Okay, so let's take the 3,840 and multiply it by 15%, so 0.15. And each of those is going to cost $576. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take her monthly income. Let's take that 3,840. Oh my goodness. Let's try this again. 3,840. We're going to subtract away what she paid in tax, so the $921.60. Put those numbers back here for you. And we're subtract away two of these 576s, right? One, the 15% is her student loan, the other 15%, so that 576 is her credit card. Okay, and after we do that, we get an amount left of $1,766.40. So clearly, guys, you look at that, this amount is less than what she wants to pay in rent. So clearly, she doesn't have enough money. Unless she wants to change how much goes towards her credit card balance and towards her student loan, she cannot afford this apartment. Okay, But the other way to also look at that is to see, all right, well, if I figure out what percent is her rent in comparison to her monthly income. So we take that 1,800 and divide it by, oh God, that 3,840. And that percent ends up being 47%. No, that's too much. We can't be spending 47% of our income on our rent. Okay, we definitely got to find a cheaper apartment there. Okay. One more question for you guys. Same thing for now. I want you guys to try this one on your own. And then once you finish, go ahead and pause. We'll go over it together. All right. So Rex makes $12.50 per hour. He works 35 hours a week. He pays 24% of his gross earnings in federal and state taxes and saves 10% of his monthly gross income. He is considering renting an apartment for $1,600 per month. Okay. So we want to know, does that fall within the 25 to 30% guideline? So we want to figure out what percentage is this $1,600 in comparison to how much he makes. Well, first we have to figure out how much he makes. So it's $12.50 per hour. So we want to figure out essentially what he makes per month. Okay. So if we take this $12.50 per hour, 35 hours per week. Okay. So I can figure out how much he makes per week first. Okay. And then we know there are 52 weeks in a year. Here's the thing you might want to do. You might be tempted to say, all right, well, I know there's 4 weeks in a year. So you do $12.50 times 35 times 4. The problem is there's not always exactly 4 months per year, right? Because if there were, 4 times 12 would be 48 weeks in a year. But there's actually 52. So we want to figure out how much does Rex make per year and then divide that by 12. So we're going to take the $12.50. We're going to multiply it by 35 hours per week and 52 weeks per year to get a yearly income of $22,750. Okay. We're going to divide that number by 12 now because 12 months per year to get his monthly income of $1,895.83. Okay. I'm skeptical here, guys. Think you can afford a $1,600 a month apartment on an $1,800 income? Definitely not. But I want to see what that percentage ends up being. So if I take the 1,600 and divide it by 1895.83, that percentage ends up being, where is it? 84%. Clearly, no, cannot afford that amount. Okay, so here we go. That's the big idea for today, guys. So next, what I want you guys to do is go back to the P-Learning page. Okay, post in that discussion board. Give me an advantage, disadvantage of both renting and buying, and then complete the lesson check. Just gonna be one question today, like one of the ones we did here. Okay, it should be nice and quick. All right, guys, have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you later.